Hey everyone, thank you for coming to check out my first free virtual yoga class. I'm so excited to be offering some YouTube yoga classes for you, and I'm really excited to practice together. So today's practice is on flexibility and also on strength. I've combined the two of these because I know a lot of us really want to get more flexible, but it is actually really important to make sure that the muscles that you're trying to stretch are also surrounded by really strong muscles so that you don't injure yourself. So we're going to do a bit of both today. This is a beginner-friendly practice, so I will be offering a few more alignment cues than maybe I normally would, just so that this video is accessible to more people. And it's also a really nice sequence to do kind of first thing in the morning when you're waking up. So yeah, thank you for coming and I hope you enjoy. We'll start off our practice today sitting in a comfortable seat, so whether that's cross-legged or maybe on your knees, or maybe bringing a cushion or a block under the hips. Whatever feels best for you is what you should do. Sitting up nice and tall, bringing the shoulders down away from the ears, and close off the eyes and start to draw the focus inward. So today's practice, we're going to be working quite a bit on our flexibility. And I've noticed that it's very easy for us to be unkind to ourselves as we try to progress in our flexibility. So we get caught up thinking, oh, I should be able to do this, or I'm not making progress fast enough, or, well, she can do this pose, why can't I? And those really aren't very helpful ways of thinking or speaking to ourselves. So today, I'd like to invite you to set an intention to approach your practice with curiosity rather than with judgment. So listen to your body. Try to hear what it's telling you. If something doesn't feel right, or if it's too much, then just back off the pose or modify it. Do what you need to do without assigning value judgments to something as unimportant as if you can touch your toes or how deep you get into a yoga pose. It is a lot more important that you treat yourself with kindness and that you finish your practice feeling good in mind and body than it is if you can get into some arbitrary yoga pose. Take a deep breath in, and as you exhale, just commit to treating yourself with compassion and kindness today. So now we'll lean forward. Going to come into a wide-legged child's pose. So I'm going to turn to the side so you can see me, but you just stay facing the front of your mat. We're bringing the knees as wide as the mat, and then we're going to walk the hands on in front of us and melt the chest down to the mat, bringing our forehead either down onto the mat or onto a block or a pillow if that's a bit more comfortable for you. Starting to deepen the breath, noticing how it feels as we take deep breaths in and out, filling the lungs, noticing how the side of the body and the back of the ribs expand with each deep inhale, how it offers a nice passive stretch to the torso just by breathing. Maybe wiggling the hips from side to side. We're going to be doing a lot of hip work today, so start to wake them up. Good. And then on your next inhale, lift up into a tabletop position. So we're bringing wrists beneath shoulders, knees beneath hips. We're gazing down at the mat. We're keeping a nice long spine here, and our core is engaged. We're going to warm up the body with some cat and cow. So disclaimer here, if you do any more of my classes, you will probably be doing a lot of cat and cow because this is my favorite spinal warm-up. It's so simple and it's so effective. So if you're not familiar, you drop the belly, draw the shoulder blades together, curl the tailbone up and gaze up at the ceiling as you inhale. And then as you exhale, you reverse the motion. So you draw your navel towards your chest, you push the mat away from you to create lots of space between the shoulder blades. Chin comes toward chest and tailbone goes down. Moving with the breath, you inhale, drop the belly, shoulder blades come together, Nice little back bend here, gaze up. And then as you exhale, reversing the motion, creating lots of space between the back of the vertebrae, and you're arching your back like a scared cat. Good. Inhale. Little back bend here, tailbone up, shoulders draw together, but still lots of space between the shoulders and the ears. And then exhale, pushing the mat away from you. Core draws in, shoulder blades are coming apart. Good. Come back to your neutral tabletop. Make sure that your navel is drawing in towards your spine, so you're keeping your core engaged here. We're going to curl the toes under, and we're going to do a bit of core work right away. So I'm not wasting any time here. All right, so gazing down at the mat, keeping the neck long. Inhale, press into the feet, lift the knees, keeping the core engaged, and then exhale, knees come down. Good. Inhale up, keeping everything in the middle of the body drawing toward the midline, so core is engaged. Exhale down. Good. Inhale up, working that core, and exhale down. Inhale up, exhale down, and last one. Inhale, come up to a hover, and exhale down. Very good. Untucking the toes. We're going to do some hip circles now. So we're going to lift the left knee, and we're going to start to draw really big circles with that knee. So we carve a line up to the left elbow, out to the side, up and back. But as we do this, we're trying to keep the hips neutral. So you're going to want to naturally kind of splay out side to side and kind of get sloppy and be all over the place. But what we want to do is keep the core engaged, keep the shoulders and hips square and neutral as much as possible. It's really hard, but it's really good for warming up the hips. And reverse the circle if you haven't already. Moving nice and slow here. We're not in a rush. Enjoying the sensation of opening through that hip and the hip flexor as we warm up the body. Good. Bringing the left knee down to the mat. Checking in to make sure that wrists are still beneath shoulders, knees beneath hips, and then lifting up to start to draw big circles with that right knee. All the way up toward the elbow, out to the side like a fire hydrant position, or like a dog lifting its leg, I suppose. And then up and back. Core is engaged. You're pushing the mat away from you. Lots of strength and integrity through the arms, through the shoulders, through the torso. And we'll reverse the motion. Big, slow circles with that knee. Really nice. Okay. Bringing the right knee down. We'll curl the toes under, walk the hands up slightly, and then we'll lift the hips up and back into our downward facing dog. So one of the most fundamental yoga poses ever. Down dog is really wonderful for stretching out the hamstrings, but it's also really good for stretching out the low back. So feel free to keep a generous bend in the knees here if you like. The point is not to bring the heels down to the ground or to keep your legs straight. The point is actually to lift the hips up as high as you can and create lots of space in the low back here. So I'd rather see this than this, if that makes sense. Melting the heart and chest back toward the thighs. We're pushing into the mat, lifting the hips up, and we're keeping our core engaged, drawing our navel in toward our spine. Deep breath in, deep breath out. And now option to move through our vinyasa. So you can always skip the vinyasa, and you can always modify as needed. We're inhaling to our high plank. Wrists are beneath shoulders, pushing the mat away from us, core is engaged. Option to drop the knees here. And then if you're coming along for the vinyasa, if you're still up in your high plank, you inhale to shift forward, and then you exhale to bend the elbows and keep them close into your low ribs. We'll come all the way down to the floor for our first vinyasa of the day. We're starting small. Hands are by our low ribs. We're spiraling our elbows towards one another, so drawing them together and shoulder blades coming together. Toes are pointed. Legs are engaged. Feel the kneecaps lift as you engage the glutes and the quads. And then keeping the neck straight, inhale to lift up into your cobra. So you're not putting too much weight into the hands here. This is all coming from the core and the legs that you're engaging. Good. Exhale down, and then inhale, lifting up through tabletop, and lift the hips up and back into your downward facing dog. So that is a vinyasa. We're going to be doing a few of them today, but you are always, always welcome to skip it if you don't want to do it. Bring the feet together. Inhale to lift the left leg up and back. So you're wanting to make sure that you don't open through the left hip here, but you keep both hips square, arms straight, and heart melting back as you lift up high. And then as you exhale, bend the knee, lift the hips, and then plant the left foot between the hands. Dropping the right knee down. We're setting up for our low lunge here. We're keeping our hips square here, and we're relaxing the hips down and forward. You can keep your hands on the mat, or you can bring some blocks under your hands if they don't reach the mat. Or if you're feeling really good, you can inhale, lift the arms up overhead. Deep breath in, deep breath out. What we want to avoid here is overextending the back bend and dumping into the low back. That's a really, really good way to injure yourself, which you don't want to do. So if you are bringing the arms up, make sure that core is engaged, belly button's drawing in, and tailbone is facing down. It's not splaying out. We're lifting up here with integrity through the core, and we're drawing everything in toward the midline. So every muscle is working here. Fingers are active, spreading wide, and we're breathing deep. Really good. On your next exhale, plant the hands, shift the hips back. We're coming into our half splits. So you're welcome to keep a little bend in the knee here. We're flexing through the left toes to protect the hamstrings here. We inhale to straighten the spine. So we're keeping a nice flat back here. And then as we exhale, we lead with the heart to hinge forward from the hips. Option 2, bring a block again underneath the hands here if they don't quite reach the mat. And I want you to avoid collapsing over here. We have a nice, long, straight spine, and we're hinging from the hips. No need to go very far. We're just warming up the body. Deep breath in. Deep breath out. Good. Now we're coming into our gate pose. So I'm going to be turning around to face away from the camera, actually. So what we're doing is we're going to bring our left foot down to the mat, pointing our left toes out to the left, opening through the hips here. So this is a really big hip opener through the left. And we're just resting here on our right knee with our right foot coming out directly behind us. We're going to keep the hips level here. We'll inhale to bring the arms up overhead, shoulders down away from the ears. And then on your exhale, reaching up and over, gently resting the left hand down on the left thigh and coming into a side bend. This does not have to be really deep. We're just warming up here. So don't dump all your weight over into the side, but think about lifting up and over. Core is engaged. Breaths are nice, long, and deep. Good. Come back to center. Bend into that front knee. Crawl your hands up to the top of the mat. Curling left toes under. Curling right toes under. Lift the right leg. Push into the mat and step the left foot back to meet the right. Option here to vinyasa or skip it. And this time we'll take our full back bend. So we'll inhale to shift forward. Exhale, bending the elbows, coming to a hover here. We're in chaturanga. And then inhale to lift up into your upward facing dog. If that's not accessible, just go all the way down to the mat and come up into your cobra. If you're in up dog, squeezing glutes and legs to protect the low back, and then inhaling the hips up and back into your downward facing dog. Good. Lifting those hips up high, melting the chest and heart back toward the thighs. Pushing all 10 fingers into the mat. Breathing deep. Good. On your next inhale, lift the right leg up to the sky, checking in that those hips are staying squared and even, so you're not opening through that right hip, but you're drawing the right hip down, spiraling the right thigh inward. And then as you exhale, bending the right knee, lifting the hips, and planting the right foot down between the hands. Bringing the left knee down to the mat. And then option to keep the hands on the mat, or if you want to, inhale to bring the arms up as you relax the hips down and forward. Drawing the low ribs in here. So you see, I can either keep everything hugging in toward the midline and keep my core engaged, or I can kind of start to splay out, sending my ribs out, dumping my weight into my low back, setting myself up for an injury. We don't want to do that. No thank you, injuries. Every muscle is working here. Super active. And then as you exhale, bring the hands down to the mat, shift the hips back, coming into your half splits. So we're checking in to make sure that our spine is nice and long. And think of your neck as an extension of your spine here. So I was just caught myself kind of cranking my head up. Keep the gaze down towards your toes, which are flexed. And create a nice long line from the tip of the tailbone to the crown of the head. No need to go very deep here. Leading with the heart and using the breath to hinge from the hips. Very nice. Bringing the right foot down to the mat, we'll start to crawl open to the left side of the mat, standing up on our left knee, pointing the right toes, and setting up for our gate pose on the other side. So inhale to bring the arms up, and exhale, really gentle back or side bend, really gentle side bend here. No need to go very far. It's not a competition, it's just yoga. So the point is for it to feel good. No need to push yourself here. Good, and then inhale back to center. Bring the hands down to the mat, bending into that right knee. We bring the palms to plant on the mat, lift the left knee up, curl the toes under, and then step the right foot back to meet the left. Pushing the mat away from you here, and then option to vinyasa, but you're always welcome to skip it. So inhale, shift forward. Exhale, bend the elbows close to the ribs. Come all the way down if you need, or stay up. Inhale up into your upward facing dog, or cobra if you've decided to come down to the mat. Squeezing the glutes, shoulders are down away from the ears, and exhale, lift the hips up and back for your downward facing dog. 3 deep breaths here, enjoying the little rest. It's so easy, like I said, to injure yourself when you're working on your flexibility, but I do find actually if you don't try to force your body past its limits, and if you really listen to it and respect it, you will actually make progress a lot faster that way. So just take it easy and be kind to yourself. Good. Inhale to bring the left leg up high to the sky. Hips stay square, navel drawing in. And then exhale, lift the hips, bend the knee, and plant the left foot between the hands. We're setting up here for our high plank. So feet are hip width distance. We inhale to lift up, keeping our hands on our hips to start, consciously drawing right hip forward, left hip back, and staying strong and active through this back leg. Bending deeply into that right knee. Option to inhale, bring the arms up overhead, fingers spreading wide, shoulders down away from the ears, low ribs hugging in. Good, and then exhale, we're setting up for our warrior two. So in warrior two, you want to make sure that your front heel is aligned with your back arch. So basically the front foot is in line with the middle of the back foot. Back foot is perpendicular to the right. So your feet should be set up like this, if you can see that. And then once you've got everything in line, you're going to start to bend deeply into this right knee. This is a big hip opener here. So your knee is naturally going to want to collapse inward to the big toe side of the foot. Don't let it do that. Consciously draw it out to the pinky toe side of the foot. If that's too much, you can shorten the stance. So you can bring your back foot in closer, or just don't bend as deeply into that front knee. So do what feels good. Inhale to bring the arms up to shoulder height. We're spreading the fingers wide. They're active and working, and shoulder blades are drawing together and down away from the ears. So pretend like you're squeezing a pencil in between your shoulder blades. Good, and then inhale, straighten the front leg, bring the arms overhead. Exhale, bending into your warrior two. Inhale up, gazing up at your fingertips as you straighten the leg, and then exhale, bending the knee, following the left hand with your line of sight. Inhale up, following the hands with the gaze. Exhale, bending deep, making sure that the knee stays on the pinky toe side of the foot. Last time, inhale up, straight legs, and then bring the hands to the hips. We're going to turn the left toes in so that they're parallel with the right. And I'm actually going to shift back here. We're setting up for our wide-legged forward fold. So option to keep a micro bend in the knees here because this is quite an intense hamstring stretch. Bringing the hands to the hips, shoulders draw together, elbows drawing together here. Engage the core. Inhale to lift up, long spine, and then exhale to hinge forward from the hips. We're going to bring our hands down to the mat. Feel free to heel toe the feet a little bit further apart if you need, or bring a block underneath the hands if they don't quite reach the floor. Deep breath in, and then bringing the left hand underneath the heart. As you exhale, twist open to the right. Right hand comes up to the ceiling. Gazing up at the thumb or down at the ceiling if that's too much for your neck. Good, and then planting the right hand down. Inhale to straighten the spine, make sure core is engaged, and then exhale to twist open to the left. Gaze is at the ceiling or on the mat, whatever feels best. Good, and then exhale back down to center. Bring the hands to the hips, and then inhale to hinge up from the hips. Very good. We're turning the left toes out to the front of the mat, bending deeply into our warrior two one last time, checking to make sure that that knee is not collapsing in. And then on your exhale, windmill the hands down to the mat. I have to kind of shift back onto my mat here. Pushing the mat away from you, lift the hips and step the left foot back to meet the right. Core is engaged, option for vinyasa. So we shift forward, exhale to bend the elbows, keeping them close to the low ribs, and then inhale to draw the chest up, either into cobra or up dog. Squeezing the glutes, and exhale, lift the hips up and back for your downward facing dog. Good, bringing the hips up high, melting the chest back. Check in with your breath, slowing it down a little bit. And check in with your mind. How are you treating yourself? How are you speaking to yourself? Are you approaching the practice with curiosity or with judgment? Take a minute, think about how you'd like to treat yourself. And we'll go on the other side. So we inhale to bring the right foot up high to the sky. Core is engaged, hips are squared. And then exhale, bend the knee, lift the hips, and plant the right foot down between the hands. Feet are in line with the hips as we inhale up into our high plank position. So drawing the left hip forward, right hip back to keep them squared. We're strong through this back leg here. So big hip flexor opening here just by keeping this left leg straight. And we're hugging the core in, low ribs come in. Inhale the arms up overhead if that feels good. Always option to just keep them down by your hips. Bending deep into that front knee, but not letting the knee come past the ankle joint. We never want to extend our knees much past our ankle joints. This will help our knees last a lot longer and feel a lot better. Good, and then as you exhale, opening up into your warrior two. So check in with your foundation. Is your front heel in line with your back arch? And are your feet perpendicular? And then if they are, start to bend into that right knee, opening it up to the pinky toe side of the foot. Gaze is out over those right fingertips. Your breath is smooth and steady. Can you keep your breath nice and steady and calm, even while your legs are working really hard? It takes a lot of focus. All right, good. So inhale, we'll straighten the leg, bring the arms up overhead, and then exhale, bend deep into that knee. Good, inhale up, following the hands with the gaze. So gaze goes up, and then exhale, following the right hand with your gaze as you bend and bring the hands down to shoulder height. Inhale up, and exhale, bending deep into that front knee. Core is engaged, and inhale up, straighten the leg, hands down to your hips, And turn the right toes so that they're parallel with the left. Option to keep a little micro bend in the knees here. We're going to do something a little bit different on this side. So we're going to take a deep breath, open the chest. We're going to interlace our fingers behind us. So this is quite an intense shoulder opener. If it doesn't feel good, then feel free to just skip it. Always listen to your body first. It is your best teacher. So we'll inhale, draw the low ribs in, keep the core engaged, opening the shoulders. And then as we exhale, we'll hinge forward from the hips, keeping a straight spine, and we're lifting our clasped hands up and over. You want to try to keep your palms together here. I know that's really hard. So if that's too much, just come out of the stretch a little bit, reduce the intensity, wiggle around as you need, or if it becomes too much, just let it go. Listen to your body and use the breath here. So if you have found that you've entered a pose and it's too intense and you can't breathe, that means you've gone too far. Your breath is your best indicator, so listen to it. If you can't breathe, then modify something. Very good. Now release the hands, planting the hands on the mat. Inhale to lift and lengthen, so bringing your chest kind of parallel with the mat. And then drawing hands to hips. Inhale up. Really nice. We're going to turn the right toes out to the side, bending deeply into that right leg. One last warrior two, deep breath in. Strong like a warrior, and then on your exhale, windmilling the hands down to the mat. Coming up onto those left toes, lifting the hips and stepping the right foot back to meet the left. Last option for a vinyasa, so take it if you want, skip it if you need. Inhale, shift forward. Exhale, bending the elbows, keeping them close to the low ribs. Inhale, drawing the heart through the gate of the arms, engaging your core and legs as you come up into your back bend. And then exhale to lift the hips up and back into your downward facing dog. Deep breath in and long breath out. One more time, deep breath in. Let it go. Very good. Bring the knees down to the mat. Sit the hips back and come into your child's pose. Nice little rest, melting the heart and forehead down to the mat. Maybe wiggling the hips from side to side. This is a good time to take a sip of water if you like. We have finished with the most strenuous active part of the practice, so well done. Give yourself a little pat on the back. All right, when you're feeling ready, lift the chest and walk the hands back to the body. I'm going to turn to my side so you can see me. So we're coming now into a pose called Janusirsasana, which translates as head to knee pose. Now personally, my head comes nowhere near my knee, and so don't feel pressured to get to a certain depth in this posture. Once again, we are approaching our practice with curiosity. We're listening to our bodies and we're working within our limits always. So we're sending our right foot out long, flexing through these right toes to protect the hamstrings, and then we draw left foot in toward our inner thigh, bending the left knee out to the side. Hips are straight and squared to the right foot. We draw the core in. We inhale to bring the arms up overhead, and then we exhale to hinge forward from the hips. So you notice here I'm not going very far, and I'm leading with the heart. I'm not hunched over and desperately grasping for my feet, but I'm keeping my low back straight, moving from the hips, and the heart is coming before the head, which is actually kind of a good metaphor for life, but anyway, that's not important. So reaching for your knee or for your calf or for your ankle, or maybe if you are actually flexible enough, grabbing onto your toes. And we're going to work with the breath here. So as we inhale, we'll think about straightening the spine, creating a nice long line from the tip of the tailbone to the crown of the head. And then as we exhale, we create more space in the body to hinge further forward from the hips. Gazing down at our toes, staying really steady here and not trying to rush into making the pose look a certain way, but rather just focusing on how we feel right now. Inhaling to lift and lengthen, and then exhale to hinge a little further forward. You really will make progress with your flexibility a lot faster if you just listen to your body and take it really slow. Good. On your next inhale, lift up and take your left hand, plant it on the outside of your left hip, and then inhale to bring the right arm up overhead as you lift the hips and come into your baby wild thing. So you're pointing your right toes, opening through your chest and lifting the hips back. Maybe gaze out up over toward your right fingertips. And then on your exhale, dropping the hips, coming back down to seated. It's one of my favorite poses, baby wild thing. It's a really nice low pressure back bend, lots of support, helps to prep the body for maybe more intense back bends. So we're coming into our head to knee on the other side, flexing through the left toes. Hips are squared to the left foot, and then we inhale, draw the hands up, shoulders down away from the ears, low ribs in, and then exhale to hinge forward from the hips. So it's very normal to have one side of the body that's a lot more flexible than the other. Naturally speaking, our bodies favor one side over the other. So if you've ever been snowboarding or skateboarding, you'll know that you naturally have one leg that you like to keep at the front of your snowboard or skateboard and one leg that you like to keep at the back. And this is a good indicator of which side of your body is stronger and which will be more flexible. So as I'm blabbering on here, try to remember to keep your back straight and to use the breath to hinge forward with the hips. But what I'm trying to say here is that the stronger side of your body, you'll be really good at doing like balancing yoga poses like tree pose or eagle pose or warrior three. But that side of your body will probably also be the less flexible side. So just again, approach your practice with curiosity, learn about your body, work with it, and don't try to force yourself to have the same experience on either side. Okay? So inhale, lift and lengthen the spine, and exhale to hinge from the hips. Good. One more deep breath in. Exhale to hinge a little bit further forward. And then inhale up. Taking the right hand outside the right hip. Pointing through the left toes, lift the hips up and back, sending the left arm up overhead and maybe gazing out at those left fingertips. Really nice. Sitting the hips back. We're planting our hands on the top of our mat, coming into our high plank position. Don't worry, no vinyasa here. Engage through your core. Lift the left leg up behind you, engaging those glutes. And then as you exhale, bend the left knee in behind the left wrist, setting the right foot out to the left foot out to the side and coming into your pigeon pose. So for a pigeon pose, this is quite an intense hip opener. And I'm moving my hips down evenly toward the mat. So I'm not leaning more on one side than the other. This is a really great pose if you want to bring a block or a pillow underneath your hips to help make sure that they're even. It's really nice to just slide one underneath your hips here. Otherwise, inhale to lift up, engage through your glutes, and then exhale, release down to the mat. So you can come to rest here either on your forearms or you can stack hands one on top of the other. Rest your forehead down on the mat. And this is a very passive but intense hip opener. So working to keep your hips rooting down evenly toward the mat. And then relax the head and neck, the shoulders, keeping the shoulders down away from the ears. And breathing really deep here. So this is quite an intense hip opener, so always feel free to back up out of the pose if needed. But otherwise, just sitting here, letting gravity do the work, and really focusing on your breath, filling the lungs, breathing nice and slowly as we cool down toward the end of our practice. Enjoying the opportunity to just be still and be a little bit more passive after all of our activity. Opening through the hips here. Really good. On your next inhale, bring the chest up, plant the hands, curling the right toes underneath. So we're going to lift the right foot, press into the mat, lift the hips, and then send the left foot back to meet the right. And we'll go on the other side. So we're pushing the mat away from us. Core is engaged, lifting through the left leg, engaging the glutes, and then bending that right knee, sending the right foot out to the side, keeping the right toes flexed here to protect the knee joint, and we move the left foot back. And I'm backing up into my couch, so I'll move a bit forward here. There we go. The perks of home yoga. There's sometimes not enough room for everything you want to do. So you see here, my hips aren't actually touching the ground, and that's completely fine. We just want to make sure that we're not leaning more toward one side or the other. As we squeeze the left glutes here to inhale to puff our chest up, and then we exhale, we melt the heart down to the mat, resting either on our forearms or putting our head on a block, or just maybe stacking one palm over the other and coming to rest down on the mat, relaxing the neck and shoulders, relaxing the muscles of the face, breathing smoothly and steadily here. Letting go of the need to exert any more effort right now. We're just passively stretching. Checking in to see the quality of our thoughts. How are we speaking to ourselves? How are we treating ourselves? Can we perhaps be kinder to ourselves? Breathing deep. Good, and on your next inhale, come up, planting the hands onto the mat. We're curling the left toes under, maybe drawing the hips up or up further forward, straightening through that left leg, pushing into the mat, lift the hips and send the right foot back to meet the left. Really good, drop the knees. And we'll just bring our feet out to the side and send our legs out long and forward. And we'll come to lie on our backs. So we're keeping the knees bent here. And we'll bring our arms out either into a T, so bringing hands in line with the shoulders, or if you're looking for maybe a bit more of a shoulder and chest opener, you can bring the hands out into like a cactus shape. So your arms are coming out at a right angle, elbow is in line with the shoulder, and then wrist comes out in line with the elbow. So this is quite an intense shoulder opener. Well, for me it is anyway, maybe not for you. So just take whatever variation feels best. Then we'll inhale to bend the knees into the chest. And as we exhale, we'll just let the knees fall out to the side. You can always bring a block or a pillow underneath the knees here if they don't reach all the way to the side. Excuse me. But we want to keep the right shoulder blade on the ground here. So both shoulder blades are on the ground as we twist to the left. This is quite a big stretch from the outer right hip all the way up into the right armpit, the shoulders, maybe all the way to the fingertips. Just breathe deep here. Option to send the gaze out to the right, over toward the right fingertips. Twists are so good for detoxifying the body, for promoting digestion. So I do recommend, if you can, incorporate a twist into every practice that you do. They're really great. Especially when you get to just lay on the ground and twist like this and you don't have to do any work. All right, if your gaze is out to the side, bring it back up to the ceiling. And then as you inhale, engage through the core to lift the knees up to center. And then we'll just send them over to the other side. I'm about to hit the wall, so I need to shimmy over to the side. And exhaling to let the knees fall to the right, keeping that left shoulder blade down on the mat, and maybe sending the gaze out toward the left side of the body. Really nice twist here. Again, it's normal for things to feel different on one side of our body, so don't try to force yourself to have the exact same experience or the exact same expression of the pose on either side. Just do what feels good. Nice long deep breaths here, maybe closing the eyes, just relaxing the body into the mat, completely surrendering. Good, and then bringing the gaze up to the ceiling, engage through the core to lift the knees up, and then hugging the knees into the chest, maybe wiggle from side to side, drawing the knee up, drawing the nose up toward the knees. And then we're sending our legs out and long to come into our final pose, Shavasana. So feet are coming as wide as the mat or perhaps wider. Hands are down by your sides, palms face up, shoulders are down away from the ears. Chin is slightly tucked here so you don't crunch up into the cervical, the upper spine. Close off the eyes and relax completely into the floor. Now, when I first started doing virtual yoga quite regularly, I would often skip Shavasana. So I would skip this final pose and I would just turn the video off and rush off into my day and just carry on being busy. And I really recommend that you don't do that. And for two reasons. The first is that physically, your body really benefits from this moment to be still and process and absorb the beneficial effects of your practice. This is a time for you to breathe deep and release any residual tension that might be lingering in the body before you continue with your day. But then secondly, and perhaps more important, is the mental benefits of lying still, closing your eyes, and focusing on your breath. It's very rare that we get a chance to be still. And so I invite you to take this opportunity to just focus on the breath. You don't have to try to control the breath. You don't have to try to make it follow a certain rhythm or reach a certain depth. But just try to bring your focus entirely onto your breath and onto nothing else. And if your mind wanders, that's fine. But if you notice it wandering, just gently draw the focus back to the breath. So I'm going to stop talking now. I'm going to give you just 1 minute to lie here and enjoy the sensation of breathing. Now start to wiggle your fingers and toes. Maybe make some circles with the wrists and with the ankles, inviting some movement back in to the body. Maybe wiggling your hips and shoulders from side to side. Bending into the elbows and knees, and then sending the arms out overhead. Come into a nice long stretch here. So pointing the toes, reaching the fingers up high overhead, and then drawing the knees in toward the chest, and then drawing the hands behind the knees, and then start to rock back and forth. Nice little massage to the back as we gradually bring our head up to vertical, eventually coming to sit all the way up. My mat is just completely rumpled all over the place. That's fine. Coming to a seated position, bringing your arms out either side. Deep inhale, filling the lungs as you lift the arms up overhead, palms come together, and then exhale to bring the hands down to heart center. Thank you so much for coming to practice with me today. I really appreciate that you took the time to check out this video. I really hope you enjoyed it, and I am so excited to continue practicing virtually with you. Please let me know in the comments below what you'd like to see. I'm happy to sequence anything that you would like. Thank you.